everyone. Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to my Saturday night lives. I hope you guys are doing well, and I'm so excited to be here with you. And this is the fourth year of doing weekly Saturday night lives in this beautiful group. And thank you, MJ, for for all of this. Like, really, without your group I wouldn't have even started these lives. All right, I'm going to ensure that I have got everything is working, especially the mic. Even though it's not Mercury retrograde, we are still in the post-Mercury retrograde energy. So we're still okay in the so you can hear me there. All right, so I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes until more of you guys join me, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are excited about today's topic, so I'm super excited too. So as usual, I will talk a bit about the energies of the upcoming week, and then we will delve deep into our discourse, and then I'll do live channeling, and you guys know how it works. You send in a tip and I'll put you on the list, and that follows. And I would highly recommend you guys two new healings I have introduced. And I would say that, especially given what's going on, and that I've been talking a lot about the third energy, there are two third energy healings I have. The activation for monadic twin flames, so this builds the union field through a healing session I conduct. And then I've got a third energy field expansion for advanced monadic twin flames. It's a healing that I will highly recommend. And also, if you guys are feeling a bit edgy, and if you're feeling like there's a lot of release, I would recommend the sacred anger transmutation and power retrieval healing. All right, and of course, soul realignment, highly recommend it. Like, really, I had mine done, I think, like 15 years ago, and truly I would call it like the highest of highest clearings, because it works on the Akashic records level and also the multi-dimensional level. So you really go I would really go deep in, like, removing the root of whatever that's being a block and restriction in your journey. So it will go, so this, I'm talking about programs and implants and stuff, like, in the Matrix movie when Neo gets this spider stuff removed, stuff like that. So that's what soul realignment does, and it's an individual healing usually. And of course, with your DM's higher self permission, it can be done for your DM too, but really all universe guided. So with that, I'm just going to see who else is coming in, and just a moment. All right. Hi Becca, lovely to see you. All right, perfect. All right, so we are all set in, and I'm so excited for today. And lately, the energies have been, I think the best word to describe the energies would be that it has been insane, intense, and heartbreaking for some, nerve-wracking for some, and totally calm for some, and frustrating for some, and for some, you're totally detached. So your question may be, what is going on with the energies right now? Like, what exactly is happening? So we had a big Mercury retrograde from end July to the 11th of August in Leo, but we still have the retrograde shadow, a residual energetic phase, which extends till the 25th of August. So technically it may have ended, but you're still feeling the post retrograde energy. So that's why you may still notice that there are a little bit of technical issues coming in. But more than that, you may really feel within you as divine feminines to release. So a lot of divine feminines have been going through the Kali phase. So what is the Kali phase? Interesting, right? So in Hinduism you have got Mahalakshmi, goddess Kali, and Mahalakshmi is when the goddess is at a peaceful state, and then she becomes Kali when she's purging everything that is not serving her anymore. So this actually, um, this is actually a beautiful example to describe the modern day female who has to be everything in order to be in this world. And that too, if you are a monadic divine feminine or a divine split soul divine feminine, being on a twin flame journey, of course, it's between calm and tsunami phases. So what I actually mean is it's okay to feel everything, because hiding it or suppressing it is only going to do more damage than healing. So that's the reason why, lately the discourses I've been doing, it's all about acknowledging what you're going through. Because you see, often that's how the 3D world works, right? It's always sugarcoating everything. You see, for example, when you watch a movie, what movies are the ones that make you cry, where the protagonist goes through a lot of adversities, a lot of challenges, and then you connect deeply, and that's when tears start flowing? It's same thing with a movie, like when you watch movies where or plays like Romeo and Juliet. Why are you so triggered or affected? Because as twin flames, this is what happens. This is what happened. This is what happens. And the fear of not being in union, or the joy of getting into union after all the obstacles, that's what you connect. And a lot of Hollywood movies, they do have twin flame themes, like from movie Adjustment Bureau to Cloud Atlas, to, in fact, recently I was some really good shows as well, like the Korean drama series Crash Landing, which was released during the COVID period. Oh my goodness, every episode you will have tears flowing, because you see, it talks about hardships like beyond, political, national, family, all of the external obstacles and also internal obstacles. So that's the reason why these movies, these shows speak to your heart. But then, why do you want your journey to be so peaceful, or just for the facade, or for the performance, which I keep talking about in my previous discourses? The twin flame journey is raw, guys. It's super raw. And right now, with all the retrogrades that are taking place, Jupiter retrograde, Pluto retrograde, Neptune retrograde, Saturn retrograde, it is a powerhouse of retrogrades that are just going in and bringing out everything that you have been holding. The Kali is unleashed. In a good way, of course. Goddess, all respect to Goddess Kali, of course. So that's why the theme for this week, there could be a bit of miscommunication, delays, and like I've been talking about, emotional reprocessing of everything that may still surface. So that's why for us twin flames, we may be going through an internal reset. And you may be calling out for a little bit of peace. because you're just feeling everything coming in. So you may be fluctuating states as well. The upcoming week, it's going to continue. You might be feeling really calm. In fact, the upcoming week, you're going to feel more calm than the last 2 weeks, because the energies of Mercury retrograde have settled and we are just in the retrograde shadow period. However, Saturn retrograde, lately I've been talking about Saturn retrograde a lot in my daily lives, because Father Saturn is the most amazing teacher in the universe, multiverses, and beyond. Because the beautiful thing about Saturn is right now he's really showing what your divine masculine did to you. For example, he was really nice to you, and then suddenly he was being mean to you. That's exactly what his friends are doing to him. They were really nice to him, and suddenly they are being mean to him. And he's probably wondering why. So every friend circle he hops into, they're treating him the same way. Because Saturn wants your divine masculine, wants our divine masculine to totally reflect and look within. Why is the external world behaving like that? And this is going to continue to intensify throughout the week. It actually began on the 13th of July when our Saturn retrograde began, and even prior to that, because of the pre-Saturn retrograde energies. But because this retrograde, Saturn retrograde, calls in for deep introspection for our divine masculines, he is being pushed into that state by external. So for example, the friends, he may have had a group of dudes or guy friends that he really trusted. All of a sudden they would be like disappointing him. Or he might have business associates whom he really trusted and he built something together. He might really get into places, whatever he did to you. Like example, if he blocked you, people will block him. If he kept rejecting you or pushing you away without meaning, without any kind of reason, that's exactly what will happen to him. He will start to notice all of this, and until he learns what he did to hurt his feminine, these lessons are going to keep repeating, because Father Saturn is the most loving and most graceful, and at the same time he is a teacher. He is a masculine fatherly energy. So what does that mean for us divine feminine? Same, he is guiding us to step out of the illusion and to look beyond the performance, and to really to trust the universe and to trust the cosmos that everything is working in order. So that's what Saturn retrograde is teaching us divine feminines, to be authentic, to be whole, and to be ourselves. And that's why we are feeling all that purging, and that's why Father Saturn is like telling you, hey, don't worry girl, I'm taking care of you, and I'm making sure that your divine masculine understands exactly what he did, and there are repercussions for his actions. So Father Saturn retrograde is a very amazing turning point, and it will go on till the 28th of November. So this is going to be July, August, September, October, November, 5 months where our divine masculines are going to literally, when they come out, they're going to be totally different people. That's why union after the 28th of November would be much more fulfilling, because you'll be totally in the zone. So that's the reason why, he's going to like totally, the way he is going to work is going to shift. The way he looks at his social relationship, it's going to shift. Another thing is, Saturn retrograde is also encouraging your divine masculine to connect to home, his parents, his siblings, people who really have better interests at their heart for him. So even friends whom he have not spoken for a long time, but they go way back, but who really care for him, instead of friends who came in during the period that both you and your DM met. So all of that, NPCs or facades, are all crashing, and our DM are more connected to his family of late in a very good way, in a very positive way, because that's what Saturn retrograde does. And for twin flames, it's always a blessing. And Neptune retrograde, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, most beautiful, I would say. Wow, planet Neptune is so gorgeous, right? Because what Neptune retrograde is going to offer this week is, with Saturn retrograde, it's a deep introspection. With Neptune retrograde, is piercing through the veil and having a deep cleanse. And then Pluto retrograde adds in to explore your own inner power and shift into your authentic self. And with all the transmutation, with the shadow work, everything that you have had within is coming up, hence the Kali face. For your divine masculine, it's about remembering, honoring Shakti, honoring the feminine energies even within him is vital for his life to flow. So yes, so Pluto is kind of like, hey, Saturn is teaching you a lesson, but hey, you can learn your lesson quick if you connect to Pluto's grace and inner power exploration. So that's what's going on. So Pluto is encouraging your divine masculine to look within and to recognize you, his divine feminine. So very beautiful. And then Jupiter retrograde has been going on for a while, having begun in November 2025. And I have to say, Jupiter retrograde, beautiful, because planet Jupiter, oh my goodness, that's why this year has been like a total shift. You may have noticed a lot of changes in how you perceive your twin flame relationship. You would feel that you're no longer just dwelling and yearning in pain, and you've started living. So that's why for the divine feminines, Jupiter retrograde has been all about transmuting what's within and acknowledging them and being in our full authentic self. Not because, oh, my divine masculine would have liked that, oh, my divine masculine would have liked it if I was more of a yes person and if I was more dainty. Or no, your divine masculine only loves who you are, your authentic self. So please never ever think you have to change yourself for your DM. Neither does he have to change himself for you. But what needs to happen in the twin flame dynamic is being authentic and awakening to our true power and self and sacred remembrance. That's why these retrogrades have been really, 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 really wonderful. So this is the forecast for the upcoming week. You're going to have more refined communication and deeper self expression. And you're also going to notice, even though Mercury has become direct, the shadow period might prolong a little bit of misrecognition, miscommunication, but it's all part of the transmutation. So really, this week is about transformation through transmutation and bringing out the shadow and really shifting from performance and people pleasing to being in your. So that's what the Kali energy is doing. It's awakening your authentic self. So that's why this week is about being in your goddess power. So with that, I really hope you're excited for the upcoming week, because it's going to be much calmer than the last 2 weeks, and it's also going to be filled with a lot of downloads. So you may be having those ha moments where you're like, wow, this makes sense and that makes sense. And hence why, I'm going to get it started. Oops. And I'm just going to have a look at the comments, and then we're going to delve right into our discourse. All right. Oh, I see quite a number of comments. All right, Becca is saying she's totally detached finally. Hi, Tapia. Hi, Rachel. Becca is saying so much releasing, starting a new year. Oh, it's your birthday. Happy birthday, Becca. All the blessings from the universe to you. And yes, you will continue purging, and it's going to be amazing. And good morning, Tracy, and hi, Emma. Wow, we've got a lovely group coming in. Quite a number of you guys are here. So amazing. So before I start, highly recommend soul realignment for this period, because with all the retrogrades and with 2025 is the start of, see, 2025 to 2050, as per my prediction, is the period where the most number of twin flames are going to come into union. And the reason why is because the next 25 years is when there's truly going to be a split with the machine kingdom and the spiritual kingdom. And then after that, there'll be situations of people uploading their consciousness, and us spiritual people definitely exiting through Stargate. So it's only during this period where you can truly enjoy physical union on 3D Earth, because it actually is able to hold the frequency of 5D, 6D, 7D, 8D, 9D, 10D, 11D, 12D, and beyond energies on within the physical body. So that's why the next 25 years is going to be totally blissful for all twin flames out there, especially monadic twin flames. This 25 years is going to be filled with us anchoring an ancient template. We're going to awaken the ancient template of love and remind Earth that love is beyond everything. All right, with that, I am going to delve right into why. All right. Oops. So, why would I choose this topic? Because lately we have really been going deep into what we feel as divine feminines, right? Hence why the divine feminine awakening, and why our love scares him into growth. I know you guys will giggle a bit here, because it does scare him into growth. And that's why I felt like this discourse would, with the blessings of God, goes well. So, when we truly awaken as the divine feminine, we become something that our divine masculine has never encountered before. Not because, category 1, there aren't other women in his life, and category 2, because he's totally, detached to everyone else, but because there is no other energetic frequency like yours on this planet. And when I say frequency, I'm not talking about personality traits or physical attraction. I'm talking about the living transmission that moves through your body, your voice, your eyes, your energy field. The third energy I'm talking about here, that only your divine masculine recognizes instantly, and unfortunately his ego cannot comfortably tolerate. So that's why many of us divine feminines make the mistake that our divine masculine rejected us because we were too much. And actually, we would feel it before he's going to say something like he doesn't like you or he's not interested. And despite all that, you push through the performance. And of course, he might even use this reason that you're too much, that you're inauthentic, that you're fake, and that he doesn't like anything about you. That you're too emotional, you're too intense, you're too loving, you're too wise, you're too psychic, you're too knowing, you're too much of everything. But in truth, that too muchness is not error. It's an architecture. It's encoded disruption. And especially this happens when you think that everything is going in a flow, and like we think that, hey, you got this, man. But remember, you were not sent into your divine masculine's life to get him and marry him and live happily ever after with him in a state where you're both not fully aware, with little or no remembrance. You were never sent into his life to keep him comfortable either. You were sent to collapse the structures that were never built in truth. That's why, remember, our presence is not neutral. It is a frequency disruptor of distortion. And it carries loads of light codes that demand reorganization of our beloved divine masculine's energy, his beliefs, his choices. And if he's been deeply entrenched in societal programming, ancestral wounds, or karmic illusions, this reorganization feels like threat. But remember, it's not personal. It's just an archetype, you know. His system needs you as change, and change is the death of false self, of the false self, of the false self. Let me just emphasize on it. All right? What most people don't understand is that an awakening feminine is not passive. She's not just sitting there being in love. We are actually generating intelligence. That's why in yogic science, Shakti, the feminine, precedes Siva, who is consciousness. And she stirs the stillness, you know. And Shakti moves the dormant. She spins atoms, chakras, timelines, because her love is not just a feeling, it's an energetic architecture that starts rewriting her divine masculines feel before he even said yes to it. And as divine feminines, our womb is a portal of dimensional access. Our tears are clearing currents, and our gaze can open timelines our divine masculine has no memory of in his consciousness, in his mind. I mean, not consciousness, in his conscious mind, of course. But that is when his soul starts to remember, and when this frequency meets the false masculine, the dissolving begins. The performer loses his grip. The performer who is so nice to you in the beginning, and then finding ways and means to just cost you all the pain and suffering, that performer loses his script. Category 1, the womanizer can't find the lines. Category 2, the wounded masculine loses control. The avoidant feels seen and flooded. And here's the thing, you were never too much. You were simply doing what you were meant to do. And you land on the distortion and it starts to burn away. That's why he will say things like, you're too intense, you are this, and it'd be like, I feel like I've known you forever, but I can't do this. None of that is a lie. He's just overwhelmed by the truth you carry, and he doesn't yet have the tools to integrate it, you know. And that's why he dismisses, and he likes to hide behind the atheist banner. He might say, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in reincarnation, I don't believe, you know, it's like we are here, we are born and we die. You know, he may say things like that, and you'll be like, one moment he's so deep, and then, but you see, even in that, there is wisdom. Even in that unconsciousness is wisdom. When he says all of this, he's actually guiding the mind into the place of nothingness. Because when he says those things, you go into the state of complete disbelief of everything that is there, and that brings you straight to the 13th dimensional field, where monadic twin flames split, where we have split with our divine masculine. So it's actually kind of showing us the void, because there is no birth, there is no reincarnation, there is nothing there except for transcendence and life. That's why in a monadic twin flame union, you're not just the romantic partner, you are the mirror of the soul contract. And the mirror is not flattering. It's about making him really realize, look deep within it. So it's not about making him feel good. It's about making him feel real. So you reflect back his unintegrated feminine, his fear of surrender, his deep longing for intimacy alongside his terror of it. The unworthiness seeded over lifetimes of false masculine templates and his highest potential, which is often far more frightening to him than his worst shadow. So a part of him wants your nurturing so bad, but he fears your knowing. He wants your softness, but not your sovereignty. He wants your body, but not your boundaries. And until he evolves, he will perceive you as chaos. But chaos here is simply truth entering where the structure was false. Your presence awakens triggers he can't yet hold. And the first is unworthiness. Your unconditional gaze terrifies him because he has spent his life believing love must be earned. And suddenly you are giving him love like on a platter, you're showing your love bombing him. You're doing everything because you recognize him as the divine husband, and he's like weirded out. He's like, why would a female, is there something wrong with her? Why is she performing? Why does she have to perform? So deep within his hurt because he thinks you don't have to prove yourself to be with him, but you just want him to feel at home. But you see, the whole performance, both sides, that's the 3D wounded aspects. You see him raw, stripped, and you still love him. And that feels exposing, not comforting to a man who identified with shame. And secondly is the loss of control. Your perception bypasses his masks. You speak what he hides. You reflect truths he's barely admitted to himself, and suddenly he's no longer in control of the narrative. And third is the forced abandonment of false masculinity. You don't need saving, you need presence, and that scares him because he has been conditioned to believe that he needs to protect the feminine. But what you are looking for is not even protection, you're just looking for presence. You don't want his performance, you want his truth, you want his authenticity, and this dismantles everything he was taught about being a man. And the fourth is the echo of his mother wound. You may mirror the love he longed for but never had, and that comes, and with all that comes all the pain of its absence. So for example, his mother may have been tough on him, even though she's got unconditional love for him, but may have never expressed love like you do. And that's the love he desires. It could have been through his grandmother. For example, his mother cooks healthy food and has always been about, whereas his grandmother cooks tasty food, and suddenly you are cooking tasty food, which is not but you see where I'm coming here, so that's the echo of the mother wound. A part of him wants you so badly because this is what he wants all along, but at the same time the echo of the mother wound says that sometimes the mother wound can express itself in distorted ways. It may look like the right way, but it might stifle your divine masculine from exploring and expanding beyond. So you may mirror the love he longed for but never had, and with that comes all the pain of its absence. And finally, there's that unavoidable soul recognition. He knows you even if he doesn't believe in this stuff, and that knowing ruins him for false love. He can't unknow it. So if he can't have it, he will try to deny it exists, to the point he might even bluff you that he's going on a date only to admit that he said it to test how much you get triggered. Or category 1, he might keep choosing someone else because he just can't meet you at your frequency. Or category 2, he will come up with all ways, when he felt so comfortable hanging out with you, and then suddenly he says awkward because things are getting a little closer. You see, he would not make sense at all. But this is when your own initiation begins, as divine feminines. The temptation is to shrink, to dim your light so he feels safe. So you fold yourself into a smaller shape so he doesn't feel his own discomfort. But the shrinking delays both your evolution and his. Softness, real softness, is not weakness, it's actually womb technology. It's the ability to stay open without leaking, to love without abandoning yourself, to be present without bargaining. So softness says, I will love, but I will not leak. I will see you, but I will not forget me. I'll feel everything, but I'll not make you God. The pedestalization process. His silence, when it comes, it's not a glitch in the connection. It's soul technology. It's the void womb. It's the sacred space where you are rebirthed not as his beloved, but as the divine feminine in a full embodiment. So silence forces you to reclaim your voice, your body, your knowing. It strips you of the addiction to external validation. When you stop asking, why won't he speak to me? And start asking, what am I remembering because of this? You step into that temple of you. And here's the truth. You are not here to be liked. You're here to be the threshold. You are his map home, not his comfort. Whether he crosses the threshold in this lifetime or the next lifetime, but possibly in this lifetime, because the next 25 years, 90% unions are expected from what I see through the Akashic record. So that's good news, right? So that's why, you're not waiting, you're becoming. You trigger him because you carry authenticity, the truth. You disturb him because you hold sacred fire. You scare him because you remember. But you do not shrink, you do not chase, you do not explain your frequency. You remain the love his soul cannot forget, whether his mind can accept it or not. And that's the reason why the divine feminine awakening scares him into growth. And as I go deeper, many divine feminines believe, many divine feminines, my clients that I've been working with for years, even me when I was in the separation phase, believe that rejection happens, as I was saying in the introduction of my discourse, because we're being too much, too insane, too loving, this and that. But in higher truth, like I said, too muchness is not an error. And that's why when we awaken, we are not passive. We become generative intelligence. And that's why, like I had explained earlier, Shakti precedes Shiva. And that's why we go into sacred periods of releasing sacred rage, sacred fear, sacred frustration, so that we can go into a state of quantum balance, because our body stores Akashic codes, our voice carries harmonic activations, our womb is a portal, and our gaze can reopen dormant timelines, as I had said before. Like truly, one of, in my own personal experience, like sacred remembrance, going back into one of my past lifetimes, not on Earth, but in another star system, where he was in my DM was in a militarized hierarchy of systems, and I was like a rebel healer, and how we had this kind of love and how we were separated, and that pain, remembering all of that, like truly helped me to understand his present behavior, like why he was behaving the way he was behaving, because of what we had lost and what it did to us, even beyond Earth, beyond the galaxy. So sometimes a little bit of remembrance is all it takes for us to truly get our divine masculine. But that doesn't mean we have to be dormant and people pleaser and performing either. It's about remembering, understanding, and being authentic. Because when you meet here, right here on Earth, it is not about reliving the past. It's about co-creating the future together. And for that, things have to break for things to fall in place. That is the reason why when our frequency meets his false masculinity, the dissolving begins. His performance loses his script, and because he's an avoidant, he feels totally exposed. Remember, in a monadic twin flame union, you're not just a partner, you're the mirror of the soul. And the mirror does not flatter, it dismantles. So you reflect his unintegrated feminine, his fear of surrender, his longing for intimacy, and his terror of it. You know, his unworthiness from lifetimes, like I mentioned my own personal example of like how he felt like, in fact, what happened is actually quite traumatizing. He was reset, but he had encoded something in this glyph that, you know, like we will remember, like we will always remember, you know, even if they wipe out his memory. And in that lifetime, both of us were, of course, you know, yeah, you know what I mean. But that moments we got to spend together, you know, that's all mattered. And you see, and reflecting back at that moment, was the moments are what matters, right? You can't really look in terms of quantity, you need to look in terms of quality, you know, like the sacrifices both you and your divine masculine have made beyond lifetimes, you know, what you did to fight to be together with each other, even if it meant, like in my case, my divine masculine losing his memory and me totally being, you know, um, and what it does to us on a soul level, because every separation creates ripples. That's why our divine masculine wants our nurturing but fears our knowing. You know, he wants our softness but not our sovereignty. So, what do we awaken in our divine masculine that he cannot yet hold? The first trigger is unworthiness amplification. Your unconditional gaze terrifies him because he has lived believing love must be earned. So, you must love him raw and stripped, right? So when you love him raw, when you love him with such rawness, he feels exposed. And the response is that he pulls away, he mocks, gaslights, or he just dismisses you like you don't even matter. You know, he says things like he's not interested, he says things like, oh, he's awkward, not because you're wrong, but because your love threatens the shame he's attached to. Another thing, loss of control. Your perception pierces his mask. You speak what he hides, and this strips him of his narrative control. And his pain response is that he will accuse you of being too intense, you know, that projection born from emotionally feeling naked, and force abandonment of false masculinity. You need presence, not performance. Safety, not solutions. Vulnerability, not dominance. And this shatters the belief that his worth is in provision. So that's why he thinks that he needs to provide, but that's not what you're looking for, you know. And his pain response is to retreat into category one, superficial relationships, so that he can regain control through power and that S word, you know. And like I talked a bit about the mother wound, you know, your nurturing stirs buried maternal wounds. You know, it could be because his younger sister was born or brother was born, and how the attention shifted a little, and how, you know, the unconditional love started to shift. But you see, the truth is, as mothers, every mother in the world tries her best to do her best, but sometimes there is no best. It really depends on the child. So our divine masculine may have misinterpreted, or you know, so when you mirror the love he longed for and the pain of its absence, he projects unresolved anger, you know, accuses you of control, because a part of him may have thought that his mother controlled him, or part of him would have been like what I said, you know, he might be really cooking tasty food, but he might be like his mother. You know what I mean, you know, could be things like that. And then he accuses you of control, and he rejects your depth, like directly to the face. The trigger, the fifth trigger, unavoidable soul recognition. He knows you even if he doesn't believe in this. Once felt, it ruins him for false love. So the pain response is denial, dismissal, convincing himself you are delusional to avoid the act of knowing. Oops, I'm just gonna see if there are more comments. Hello, Kasturi. Finally, lovely to see you here. Becca says she feels all of it. Jordan, good evening. Oh, Tracy says appreciate your insight. Perfect, perfect. So these are very important trigger patterns that you've probably already experienced depending on which stage of your connection you're in. And soul remembrance is a big thing as well because it helps you to, that's why that separation period is actually really, really good for us because we really go deep and we start remembering more, and then it shapes our performance into authenticity. And that's why softness is a womb technology. It's not weakness. Softness is not fragility. It's actually energetic. It's the ability to stay open without leaking, to love without abandoning yourself, to be present without bargaining, or to make yourself dumber, or feel like you can't be yourself in front of your DM by performing. All conditioning thought collapse as love. But the awakening feminine refuses to shrink. I will love you, but I will not leak. I will see you, but I will not forget myself. I'll feel everything, but I won't put you up on a pedestal. Softness here is a goddess work, holding the temple open while he learns to enter it with respect and authenticity. And silence is the soul technology. His silence is not punishment, it's initiation. It removes external validation, so you retrieve your voice, body, and knowing. That's why silence is the void womb. Like I said, it brings us back to the cosmic egg where we were split. So when we are rebirthed as the divine feminine we always embodied, it just shifts things, right? So you stop waiting and you start anchoring, and you remember that you are the oracle, with or without his belief, with his acknowledgement. When you stop asking why he won't speak to me and start asking what am I remembering because of this, you shift from longing to leadership, literally. So remember, you are not his lesson. Like I said, you are his threshold. That's why our divine feminine awakening is not soft. A little bit of the Kali energy, really, it's okay, and comfortable. It's disruptive by design. So you need to enter the Kali stage a little. Of course, there's so much out there saying, and my teachings are very authentic to my own experience and the thousands of clients that I've worked with over the years. So that's the reason why I just go by what I'm a clairvoyant, by what I understand, perceive, and that's what I teach. So that's the reason why I just speak from what I know, from what I've experienced, from what my clients have experienced as well. So that's why I'm saying going through the Kali stage is important. You need to release the sacred anger. You gotta release the sacred frustration. You got to release everything. And only when you do that will your DM release his fears, his control, and everything. So remember, our love is not ordinary love. It's monadic frequency. And our divine masculine encounters this love and experiences it as both home and threat. That's why our awakening catalyzes his growth through monadic frequency activation. And the monadic field, the third energy, where twin flames exist as one undivided intelligence, the cosmic egg. And when we connect back to the cosmic egg, and the third energy, everything changes. As we awaken more as the divine feminine, we begin radiating the frequency in the third field, the third energy. Our love carries the imprint of eternity, not dependency, not seduction, but remembrance. Everything that we have gone through, we'll start celebrating it, be it the tragic separations, be it the missions, be it everything. For the masculine, this feels overwhelming because it bypasses the usual relational games. He cannot control or manage it, you know. It enters his body and nervous system at a cellular level. That's the reason why many divine masculines report feeling like haunted or pulled by you, even when you're not doing anything when they run. So a deep ego collapse often follows, you know. That's why he retreats, denies, or pushes you away quite brutally sometimes. So the ego survives by maintaining familiar roles, right? Provider, achiever, controller, protector, the 3D masculine archetype, which I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not in a place to talk about other kinds of love. I'm only here to talk about monadic twin flame love, right? Based on my own experience and my clients. So, the divine feminine's awakening love dismantles those identities, you know. He doesn't have to be a provider in the 3D sense. He's already one. So our very presence shines light on his shadow, his insecurities, immaturity, his wounds, his false projection. So he experiences this as an attack on who he thought he was, when in truth it is an invitation to drop the mask. So this explains behaviors like sudden rejection, like I'm not interested all of a sudden, you know, or just blocking you or pulling you away or friend zoning you or actually they might not even be able to friend zone you because they already have feelings, so you know, so they go into the label of awkwardness, you know, and then slowly start to disappear from your life. Or reactive anger, you know, he might lash out at you because that's the only way he can push you away, you know, or say things like you will never ever ever speak to you again, or throw an ultimatum at you, like saying that that's it, you know, that's it, he will never ever 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 speak to you or see you again because you have done so many things to make him feel that way. And you'll be wondering what things, right? And you will also be wondering, would he do this to another person? Probably not. Often divine masculines only reject their divine feminine, only say no to their divine feminine, only do they do everything that they don't do to anyone else because they feel like, you know, they feel you as their divine wife. That's why they behave like that. Only husbands and wives behave like that, right? They're totally whole, they're totally authentic, they're totally truths, even unconsciously. Because he's like taking you for granted in a way, right? Even enemies can become friends again. But when your divine masculine hurts you or blocks you or says he will never ever speak to you again, at that moment it is true because he means it. And that can break you and torture you and collapse you, you know, as the divine feminine. But remember, this is required, the cracking of the shell before the soul emerges. So sacred mirror work, you know, why the divine feminine love, why does our love feel both healing and terrifying? Because as twin flames we are mirrors, right? But as the divine feminine we embody a sharper mirror, usually because we awaken first, in a way, you know, even though that too can be contested. Our love does not flatter the ego, it reflects his higher self and his unhealed self simultaneously. To our beloved divine masculine, this feels like standing naked before God, raw, unhidden, judged by no one, yet unable to hide. So the sacred mirror is not meant to punish, it reveals both the wounding and the possibility of healing. And his growth begins not when he accepts you, but when he accepts himself in that mirror. So that's why our role is holding the frequency. Our awakening must not regress into overgiving, love bombing, people pleasing, and more of divine masculine pleasing, or collapsing to making uncomfortable, you know. Oh, no, I said to make him comfortable, but it actually becomes very uncomfortable for him. You know, your true love scares him. Why can't you just get it? Leave him alone. Like, truly. Our task is to hold steady in our monadic frequency without shrinking, without chasing or dimming, and this stabilizes the union field, even if he resists. That's why so many of us divine feminines go on to do a lot of things to contribute to the world. You know, in a way, we transmute our pain into service. I've got divine feminine clients, you know, just to deal with the pain of separation, they would start volunteering at an old folks home, and spending time with older people, hearing their stories about love, wisdom about life in the 60s and 50s. Totally, you know, so it's two-way. It's not even them serving, it's about them being there for the elderly people and they imparting their wisdom. Some go on to change professions, or some go on to make a difference where they are. So for example, they are teachers, they go on to to create, be the teacher that truly teaches. You know, if they are a doctor, they go above and beyond to care for their patients on a different level. You know, if they are in sciences, you know, they want to develop ways to assist spirituality. So that's what we do, you know, healers, teachers. We start to truly awaken. Oh boy, awakening, start awakening, and this frequency all flows into service. And what happens to our divine masculine, you may wonder, right? At first, he would interpret our love as pressure, responsibility, or even danger. And over time, the ego cannot sustain resistance because the monadic imprint lingers, you know. So his body, dreams, and psyche begins recalling the truth. This love is home, and growth emerges not from you convincing him, but from his inner confrontation. Is he ready to be seen fully? Can he love at the level he claims he wishes? And his love awakens through you, but it matures when he chooses to meet you in the same field. And this is the sacred alchemy of union, you know. As the divine feminine, our awakening triggers a chain reaction. Our love disrupts his illusions. His ego collapses. He resists, runs, denies, rejects, does everything. And the mirror works on him in absence. He grows into his own awakening state. And this is not failure, it is actually initiation. And the sacred paradox is the very love that scares him is the one that's going to heal him. And this is the reason why this discourse is so important, because this is something that all of us feel, you know, if we are on a monadic twin flame journey as the divine feminine. If this love is so pure, so eternal, why does it terrify him instead of drawing him closer? So remember, this answer is not a psychological one, it's multidimensional. Our love is not ordinary. It carries the monadic frequency, the third energy, the pure tone of our eternal union. And because this is not ordinary, it does not soothe the ego, it dismantles it. So that's what I've been like talking about, you know, in so many different ways, right? So the monadic frequency in itself is based on the energy field, right? The third energy field. So ordinary love, as I spoke about, arises from desire, compatibility, arrangement, societal needs, projection. But monadic twin flame love bypasses all of that. It's the recognition at the soul's core. That's why when we awaken as the divine feminine, our presence becomes a transmission. Without trying, we begin emanating the tone of home, you know, the monadic twin flame unique vibration that only you and your DM share, you know, that same energy code, you know, the cosmic, in the cosmic egg, that frequency. And this frequency collapses time. That's why you go through sacred remembrance. You know, you start remembering past lives beyond Earth, beyond the galaxies. So that's why, you know, he may have only have known you for like a few days, sometimes maybe a few months. But yet he will feel like he has known you forever, you know, because his nervous system records you as both destiny and danger. So the psychological effect on your divine masculine is that he cannot categorize you, and that is scary because he's so used to like categorizing his past relationship, the crazy one, the controlling one, the manipulative one, the one that disrupts families, the one that is obsessed, the one that, you know, is so hard to get. And then you are like, you're not a girlfriend, you're not a lover, or you can't even be his friend. You are something that his ego has no language for, and this triggers disorientation. And this is what can we really mean. So the spiritual effect on him is that because this field bypasses logic, his dreams, body, and subconscious begin him he starts pulling himself towards you, even as his ego resists. So that's the reason why many divine masculines may not admit, you know, I do have divine masculines clients too. They would admit this one thing, that they actually really, really think about their divine feminine, sometimes even quite obsessively, you know. So that's the reason why many divine masculines report thinking of their divine feminines constantly, even after pushing her away, actually after rejecting her, after saying I'm not interested, after saying that he will never ever speak to her again. He thinks about her more and more and more obsessively, and, you know, always having hyper vigilance around her, looking at her socials, trying to like look at what she's doing, how she is, always worrying for her, being concerned for her. Truly, truly. And that's why, as the divine feminines, we feel like we can't get him out of our mind either, because he's thinking, see, when someone is in our thoughts, the thinking is always two ways, right? You know, even in human level telepathy, when your enemy thinks of you, you probably think of your enemy too, you know. That's why you feel so uncomfortable. But in a twin flame connection, it's the third energy field. Beyond all the noise, it's only the both of you that exists as one. So of course, when he thinks of you, you will think of him, and when you think of him, vice versa. So there's really, it's like, it's beautiful, you know. The monadic frequency remains in his system always. That's why the ego may thrive on identity, you know, like he's the provider, he's the achiever, he's successful, he's the one in control. So the rejection is also part of his obsessiveness for control, because when he rejects you, he controls the narrative of getting rid of you from his life. But the truth is, can he though? And that frustrates him, because every time he wants to message you, he wants to call you back, he wants to apologize, he's like, if I do it, I would lose control to her, because then I'll be totally hers. Because our love, the divine feminine love, is like a torch that shines through those masks. And we don't buy the costume, right? We just see through the soul. So for the divine masculine, this feels like annihilation. His self, carefully built from culture, family, career, past relationships, begins to dissolve in your presence. So his nervous system reaction is fight, flight, freeze. So he may lash out, you know, I'm not interested, run away, or go emotionally numb. But the important truth is, he's not running from you, he's running from what he sees in himself when you are near. And ego collapse is the price of entry into union. Without it, he cannot carry monadic frequency, because illusion cannot coexist with truth. That's why DMs reject their divine feminines at the exact moment of deep closeness. Our love cracks the shell too far, too fast. That's why the mirroring, the unhealed and higher aspects, why we tend to awaken a little bit earlier, because the mirror is sharper, our love reflects, like I mentioned earlier. But you see, what really scares him is that unconditional acceptance and unfiltered truth at the same time. He cannot hide, and he really cannot believe he's worthy either. So the mirror is not punishment, it's like an x-ray of the soul. What terrifies him is not you per se, it's what your gaze reveals. That's why a lot of divine masculines may accuse the divine feminine of being too much, intense, unrealistic. In truth, it's a reflection of his own inability to meet his potential at the moment. And that's why our role, so many divine feminines, many of us may mistake his retreat as a cue to shrink. That's why I talked about shrinking earlier on as well. We overgive, we chase or water ourselves down, we wear ourselves down, thinking that if I soften, he will stay. This reverses the alchemy. If we collapse, the mirror blurs, he gets temporary comfort but no growth. So our task is to stand steady in our awakening field, not as pressure, not as demand, but as embodiment. And when we stabilize more, we teach by presence and not persuasion, and this allows his nervous system to acclimatize to the higher frequency gradually. And this is why we tend to, as divine feminines, we naturally step into being the healer, the guide, or teacher as our frequency spills over, like I mentioned earlier. So that's why, as divine feminines, we often experience career breakthrough or leadership activations and stuff like that. So that's why true fear, he actually goes into growth. At first, he may interpret your love as danger. His mind creates excuses. She's not right for me. I'm not ready. She's manipulating me. She's trying to control me. Oh, blah, 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 and whatever. Yet the feel never leaves because it can't, right? So even separation, he dreams of you, hears your voice internally, feels your presence during crises. Over time, the excuses break down and the resistance becomes heavier than surrender. His growth comes when he accepts. The love is not here to destroy him, it is here to rebuild him. And the shame he sees is not proof of unworthiness, it is the very wound to be healed. That's why, as divine feminines, we do not awaken our divine masculine by teaching him directly. We awaken him by being the mirror, being the one mirror his ego cannot silence. That's the reason why so many divine masculines come back years later with words like, I couldn't escape what I saw in you. And the union process is very paradoxical. We awaken, our love destabilizes his illusion, he retreats, the mirror keeps working, he grows in secret, in silence, in struggle, but he returns when he can meet you in your frequency. And that's the reason why, I wanted to talk about this precise model, for understanding reasons. So I want you to look at it, Monadic frequency, ego collapse, sacred mirror growth. So this is the process, not the many processes sometimes you guys talk about from what's out there. Probably that applies to split souls, I'm not sure. But in a monadic twin flame situation, this is how it works. Our monadic frequency leads to ego collapse. Maybe this way. Leads to ego collapse. And then there's a sacred mirroring, and then there's growth. So, like a nervous system map of his fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses to your field. And it's like how, planetary effects, like what's going on right now, and so you see, that's why the monadic frequency is like, you can call it the engine behind everything. So I don't know if you guys watch OA, and probably you guys may it's about the house, and in season 2 everyone goes there to, and the house is actually built by an engineer and a psychic under a sacred land. So that's why that house gets you through portals, right? And the whole concept that they are both monadic twin flames, because the engineer and the psychic, like how, yeah. So what I was going to say is it's the same thing, you know. The monadic frequency is the engine behind everything, because when, as the divine feminine, when we awaken, we begin broadcasting the divine union field, you know, which is like a signal, you know. It's like Batman's beam, you know, like it's a coherent transpersonal signal sourced from the monadic stratum. That's why it's not romance, it's recognition. So the signal is coherent, high information, low noise, and it entrains dysregulated systems towards order. You know, so I really wanted to go a little bit deeper into this, right? So your body, your breath, your voice, tone, eye contact, posture, and choices transmit it, and the effect on him is involuntary orienting towards you, dreams, spontaneous recall, deja vu, and so cognitively, you know, it can feel like there's a error because he cannot file you under past relationships. So that's why his standard control strategies start to feel clumsy, and he reads this as a threat, and that's what scares him. The monadic field renders his identity scaffoldings, which is status, control, image, obsolete, and obsolete, right? Then the shell must crack for the essence to breathe, and this cracking is what he mislabels as danger. So that's why this is the four shell identity and where your love hits. Think of his ego identity as four shells. The persona shell, surface roles, cool, competent, independent, family complex shells, loyalty to ancestral myths, parental projection, sibling dynamics, karmic control shell, unresolved issues, shame, imprints, past life, and mission template. He's undeployed genius, the thing that scares him the most because it's true. So, your presence punctures shell 1. He loses smooth control. Your integrity often inflames shell 2, you know, because your parents, imagery, and all of that. And your unconditional mirror activates shell 3, shame, avoidance, projection. And your calling activates shell 4, or, you know, I'm not ready, and retreat. So his interpretation becomes errorful. You know, he thinks he's rejecting you, is actually rejecting the mandate your field awakens in him. So that's why I wanted to talk a bit about the nervous system mapping of his responses. So when the monadic field contacts his system, expect oscillation, sympathetic fight, debate, picking fights, you're too intense, manipulative, sympathetic flight, ghosting, busyness, not now, or I'll meet you later, or don't ever talk to me again, or, you know, serial distractions. Then the dorsal freeze, numbness, flat effect, you know, that he feels nothing. And then the fawn, you know, rarer in divine masculines, but it's present. Pleasing language, covert distancing. So you can spot this through his shoulder protraction, you know, shallow breath, his high deflection. Sometimes you would notice that when he's around you, he might always have his hands in his pocket, but actually that's a mating ritual, you know. And then his hands may shake sometimes when you come a little close. So it's like, example, he's posting something on his phone, and you're like, you want to see, you know, something about your date, or I mean something about you hanging out together, and yeah, his hands might start shaking. You'll be like, why? You're spending all these hours with me, why are your hands shaking? So jaw clench, you would clench a lot when he's frustrated. So jaw clench, narrowed eyes, sarcasm is a huge thing, you know. And fight, slowed blaying, monotone voice, you know, because he's just trying to cut you off. Very rare cases, you know, apologizing, rapid agreement. So actually you would see that over apologizing in the initial stages, you know, rapid agreement, even though he doesn't agree with you, he will, followed by non-action, fawn. So you're not causing dysregulation, you're exposing pre-existing dysregulation. So the monadic field is an amplifier, not the wound. So the sacred mirror, you know, let's go into like right? The potential mirror is that reflecting his highest pattern, mission, template, devotion, capacity. But the shadow mirror surfaces his disowned traits, fear, envy, control, unworthiness. And typical misroutes, projection, he attributes his fear to your intensity. And reversal, he will say things like, you're trying to control me, when he feels his control collapsing. So minimization, it's just chemistry, downgrading monadic field to biology. So our job is to maintain mirror hygiene, no persuasion, no reactivity, no self-abandonment. And this mirror works because it's very still and clear, not because we argue, right? So I wanted to I wanted to talk a little bit more on karmic timeline blueprint with certain markers. So this is what I feel, based on how I want to teach this. So recognition, often this is the period where you hang out for weeks, months, where none of you know what you're doing, right? I log time being still, improbable synchronicities. So this is when upgrades, sudden upgrades in your gifts and missions. So this is a time that you may be cooking a lot of food for him, a lot of do you know of the moon cake? So the Lantern Festival came about due to the moon cake, and the moon cake is what they used during wars to send messages. So everything that we had done for our divine masculine was actually activating our missions. So the food we cooked for him, example, contained codes. The gifts we got for him, or the presence, the time he was feeling with us was like, sometimes you need to wait for your for like your computer to upload a file, so you need to be in close proximity, or you're sharing a file through Apple Drop, you need time for your phones to be close. So same thing, all the times you spend has got multi-dimensional meanings as well. So that's why the amplification, intense proximity, rapid intimacy, too fast feelings, his nervous system starts to oscillate. And then the crisis claim part comes after, weeks after, days after, depending. So this is like a conversation. He asserts a definitive line, not interested, or never again, to regain control. And and he will kind of like gaslight you sometimes. It may look like gaslighting, but it isn't. It may feel like, hey, you spend all these times like hanging out every weekend, spending all this time with me, doing this, doing that, going on hikes, spending so much time, and then when he says not interested, it wouldn't even make logical sense, because if he's not interested, why did he even hang out in the first place, right? People say I'm not interested in a bar when someone is hitting on someone. They don't use it on someone who's hanged out with you so long. But that is to regain control. You see where I'm coming here? So the language is absolute, behavior before and after is contradictory. So, and then there's retreat and substitution, months. He tests substitutes, So sometimes category 1, keep going on to NPCs, karmic partners. Category 2, innate work, being obsessed over something, or just trying to grow, trying to awaken. So, and this is because private fixation persists and the public narrative denies it. So the reckoning, life delivers a mirror. It could be something in his career where he quits his job, a family event, a health scare. So often this is marked by dreams, visitation, intensified, unbidden memories of you. So the written window is often cyclical, context, proximity, or bold truth telling, really depending on your divine masculine. And the tone shifts from performance to sincerity. Fewer words, more substance. You will feel it. That's why, from my own experience and from experiences from my clients who have got into union, is that you will feel this when he starts coming back. So that's why our behavior at stages 3 and 4, the crisis and claim, and the retreat and substitution phase, whether 5 to 6 arrives clearly or loop with more pain, really depends on how you react. So this is what I wanted to talk a bit about, the planetary overlay, which I touched on a bit, as the collective week analysis. So that's why Saturn retrograde right now is about accountability test. He feels the cost of ego strategies, you know. And how is the divine feminine, we must anchor standards, you know. And Neptune retrograde, hard aspects, illusion busting, spiritualized avoidance is exposed, dream search. And Uranus in Gemini, activation, sudden breaks, relocation, shocking clarity, detours, they can all end abruptly. And Pluto contacts, you know, and Pluto, the effect of Pluto, as I was speaking, power, shame of alchemy, obsession, or deep confession windows, you know. So his Pluto is what's activating the power. So the sacred balance can go from, you know, scrutinizing your life, you know, suddenly looking at old photos that you took together, trying to talk to you to people who support the connection instead of people who are trying to break the connection. And so you might connect to a family members, or old friends who really care about him, you know, who are real. And how eclipse seasons can have an effect as well. And Venus star points, you know, eclipse seasons tend to have timeline jumps, so you might have so it might either create another separation window so as to strengthen, or it might pull you together only to pull you out to pull you together again. And then Venus star points, you know, revisits value, attachment, love as devotion versus love as chemistry, and love in a monadic twin flame level. So there could be attempts at recontact. And then because, you know, Mercury retrograde often makes him think about apology, you know, and then he would also think it's your fault. So it's like apology and your fault, apology and blaming. So these are pressure points. So that's why I wanted to like teach you guys something for today to really help with stabilizing your frequency. So what you can do is breathing is one of the stable breathing. So what you can do is try to do this coherent breathing, you know, like spend 5 times just having 4 to 6 breaths, you know, 4 in and 4 out. Now, this is a yogic method that can really help to stabilize the field. So it's like you breathe in and breathe out through your mouth. Ha. So you get what I mean, right? So 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out, slowly. And then posture, you know, your crown lifted, your sacrum heavy, so you stand tall. And then field statement, you know, you're like, you hold the divine union field without chase, collapse, or demand. And then the third energy anchor, you know, hand to heart plus hand to womb. Sense the feel between the palms. And then one grounded act that honors your mission is that you can just take it all within and then have another breathing protocol here again. And then you end this, what is mine will find me because I'm findable. So a boundary protocol here, right? So, you know, this is what you say: I do not negotiate my truth to keep proximity. I do not continue conversations that derail into accusation, sarcasm, or stonewalling. And the second one is relational. First one is inner. Third one is energetic. I do not permit psychic overreach. I close the channel after this ritual. And then the detachment ladder, you know. All right. So this is something I teach all of my clients, you know. Some of them might find comfort in looking at their WhatsApp status, and it's very tempting because you just feel close to them. So sometimes when your DM blocks you, it's actually the biggest favor he can ever do to you. Then there's nothing for you to check anymore. So reduce the checking. You know, if you're like checking all the time, try to make it once a day, and then slowly replace waiting with mission blocks. You know, try to do something, create art, create poetry, write, spend time with your loved ones, you know. And social space cleanup, you know, literally mute, you know, like if you are still connected in your social medias, hide his page or mute. Don't stalk, you know. And no coded posts. Like, don't post something like, oh, my heart is always waiting for you, or you know, So yeah, so that's why. And then mirror hygiene is reflect truth once without trying to edit it, so no persuasion, no looping text. After rupture, 72 hours silence as a nervous system reset. Return with one clear invitation or one clear boundary, but not two. And then this is what I've created, the decision tree for divine feminines. So trying to gain, how to gain like clarity under pressure. So after a rupture, especially when he blocks you or says I'm not interested, this is what you tell yourself. Did he state a boundary plus show consistency for 30 plus day? Yes, match it, withdraw cleanly. And do not treat this as a nervous system flare. Do not pursue. Allow 6 weeks of zero contact. Sometimes I'll even say 6 to 8 months. Sometimes I'll even say 1 to 2 years. If he reappears during the time window, offer specific accountability plus a specific plan. Consider a measured yes, but time bound. Don't see, this is something I did a few videos on this. Sometimes you don't know how to respond. You want to just react and say, hey, you put me through hell, go away. But think about it. How do you want to respond? It takes him a lot to actually come back to you, because all the while you were the one like coming back constantly. So if months passes, like 3 to 9, 3 to 9 or 1 to 2 years with silence, double down on mission. Assume the mirror is working in absence. So keep your field clean for return windows. Often our divine masculine tend to cluster around pressure points that I was talking about. Again, guys, non-performative, high integrity presence, right? So think about it this way. This is how you actually talk to him when he returns. Boundary plus responsibility without shame. So this is what you can say. Again, these are just suggestions, huh? Don't try to follow it word for word, depending, because every of our journey is so unique, right? So you can say something like, I care about truth more than contact. If we speak, it needs to be honest, direct, and sober. If that's not where you are, I'll step back. And also, to close a loop without a slam, I'm choosing alignment over ambiguity. So no hard feelings. If your stance changes and you want to talk in a grounded way, you know where to find me. And this is a reopening with structure. If you want to explore this, propose a time to talk this week and what you want to address. I'll let you know if I can meet that. So for the divine masculine, when you address him, name the physiology. What you call overwhelm is your body trying to keep an obsolete identity alive. So give him a simple like practice, like that he's safe to be seen, and invite one act of truth. So send like one honest sentence, not a performance, just a fact. And define the win, not grand gestures, consistency for 12 weeks. This is, when you start to communicate again. So these are some of the common divine feminine mistakes excuse me, and corrections. First one, re-explaining the connection. Correction, stop teaching, start embodying. Polishing is self-image to prevent shame. Let the mirror work. Shame alchemizes into humility. Energetic caretaking, carrying both poles. Nope, withdraw surplus energy, give it to the mission, body, and community. So I wanted to talk about a few like anonymous examples, So you may feel like, let me think. For example, after weeks of closeness, he declares never again. As the divine feminine, you can answer once with clarity, then 6 weeks of silence. The outcome, he will return with an apology plus concrete plan, because you negotiate the pace and maintain boundaries. So this is crisis and claim, you see. And then example to retreat and substitution. For example, he accelerates career plus karmic dating category 1, and divine feminine, you hold all convert monitoring, you build your own life, your field intensify. The outcome is he admits emptiness and he requests sober talk. This happens to a lot of my divine feminine category 1. They always come back because you can feel it. Example 3 is, as divine feminines, when you chase to prove your devotion, he escalates avoidance. And the outcome, the loop continues until the divine feminine stops performing and stabilizes frequency, and then contact resets. So that's why you need to really look into this, right? So some ways is to try to figure out a stabilization protocol, which I can really help you in our guidance sessions. You know, try to find a way of like protecting your nervous system, and you can do it through yoga, breathing, meditation, and then also by spending time with your loved ones, you know, and doing things that helps you to elevate your frequency without making all about your DM. So that's the reason why you may ask me a question: isn't detachment unloving? No, it's how the field stays clean enough to entrain him towards truth. And you may ask, what if he chooses someone else? Substitution tests his values. Your integrity remains the attractor. And then your biggest question, the golden question: how will you know that it's a real return? Specific accountability plus specific plan plus consistent follow through for 8 to 12 weeks. No performance, no rush. Usually that 8 to 12 weeks, the 3-month period, will determine whether it's a stable union or an unstable union. And yeah, again, based on experience. So that's why, guys, why our love scares him into growth is such an important discourse, because it dismantles every aspect of you and who you are, and it dismantles every aspect of what we have been taught. So that's why, you know, this is a deep discourse. This is also a rather long one, and you may feel that, hey, there is so much going on, right? But I just wanted to say that we have talked quite a lot today about this, and one thing certain is, you have to always remember you are not a trigger, you know, and we are so used as divine feminines to internalize the rejection, because this rejection is like no other people rejecting you, and most you'll be angry for a couple of days and you'll probably be so disgusted by them you want to cut them out from your life. But when our divine masculine does that, it's so difficult. That's why the rejection we experience in the early phases of our connection, where you know, our DM thinks of us in such a way, we are actually the frequency disruptor of distortion, you know. And that's why as the feminine, we are not meant to be passive. We are intelligence, and that's what I was talking about either. So that's why our field begins to reprogram his, and often before he understands what's happening. That's why you may hear stuff like you're intense or you're too much. He's not lying. He's telling the truth at the moment in his own unconscious way. So that's why when you realize that you're not here to teach him through pain, and you're not here to prove your worth, you're not here to hold the door open forever, but you're here to embody a frequency he will never forget. Because no matter how much he runs, how long he denies, how deep he hides, your love has already undone him. And when he arises, when he finally sheds that armor, he will not be looking for someone else. He'll be searching for the one who stayed soft while becoming sovereign, the one whose love scared him into awakening. And you are the one. And that's the reason why, you know, just go with the flow, guys, and that's all I can say. And you probably have a lot of questions lingering in your mind, and you're probably thinking, why must this happen? Remember, it's all meant to happen in the most beautiful, in the most sacred way. And the beauty of it all is that it happens because that's what our higher selves decided to do, to awaken one another. That's why as divine feminines are watching this video, you have to hear this clearly. Your love is not too much, it's exact. You're not being rejected, his ego is, and you're not abandoned. His growth is simply hidden. And the greatest act you can do is to remain in your own awakening, holding the monadic frequency steady, the third energy, and clearing out all the noise, because the very love that scares him into hiding is the same love that will draw him into becoming. So remember, you're not waiting, you're becoming. You trigger him because you carry the truth. You disturb him because you hold sacred fire. You scare him because you remember. But you do not shrink, you do not chase, you do not explain your frequency. You remain the love his soul cannot forget, whether or not his mind can accept it. So with that, I'm going to open the floor to questions. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions, so I'm going to open it, and then I'll delve right into channeling. Oh, Jordan's question is, how much of this relates to the DF versus split soul? Some parts can apply, but I think you can watch my video on split souls, like what goes on. Yes. All right. Okay, I don't see any questions, so I can delve right into channeling. All right, perfect. So really, guys, the next time you're feeling sacred anger, sacred frustration, really, it is part of the plan by your own higher self. All right, let me pick out Irene's question. Hey V, I'm curious what I need to do to feel more connected to God, because I feel completely disconnected right now from Him, which is why I'm losing faith. I have fleeting moments, but that's it. General guidance, please. Oh, Irene, God is with you. And even though you're feeling like this, God is still connected to you. And that very discomfort you're feeling, it's all part of God protecting you. And so what you have to do is take a deep breath in, Irene, and slowly try to go into a place where you are, everything is going to come, but I want you to get to the state of watchfulness, the soul state. So from there you just watch, like let the feelings flow, let the plane flow, and just, so at these stages, like a mantra may help, like an affirmation may help, like mantras like Om Namah Shivaya, something like that can really, really help you to connect to your higher self. So that is something you can do. And remember, everything is flowing according to the plan set by your higher self. So just, try your best, one day at a time, one moment at a time. And your twin flames message to you is that everything will start to shift, everything will start to change, and you will start to notice that deep within, everything is going to be such that you are no longer going to be. So this is an intense period because of all the retrogrades that's going on, but this too will change. And you will notice that deep within, changes are going to occur to help you to see, right now everything is a lot because your nervous system is just tired of what has been happening, but that's going to shift. Just call out to God, even beyond mantras. Just cry out to God and say, hey God, I really really need your help, please help me, and you will be guided. With that, Irene, I hope this guidance helps you. Next up, I have got, all right, Jordan's question is, how is your soulmate Luke Rodriguez really doing since we broke up 2 months ago? Any indication of when he will reach out? Since I've been radio silent and he's been attention seeking. Thank you. All right, Jordan, what I'm picking up from your soulmate is that he does feel the energies of your DM. So there's always going to be that fear. And this connects to past lives as well, where he was always the one that has been there for you. So the past lives that you actually share um, with Luke is that you guys were colleagues, you have been business partners, so you have a lot of care and concern for each other. But however, the presence of your DM does cause him a lot of fear based on his own trauma pattern. So because a part of him can sense that you are on a twin flame journey, so it does affect him. But even though that's happening, I feel like you can still enjoy this connection, and in due time it will work out. So I feel like he wants to reach out, but he's afraid to be rejected by you. So in a way, he's just kind of like holding back. But he will not be able to hold on the temptation, because what he has with you is very unique, very very loving energies, and remembrance as well. Couple of very strong past lifetimes. So he will return even before you know it. It can be in the next couple of days even. With that, yeah, his radio silence is also for you to figure out what you want in your life. So that's what I'm feeling, because he wants you to make a sovereign decision, and he doesn't want you to be with him just for the sake of being with him. So he really, like, if you were to take this course, he wants you fully, completely. So that's what's going on with him. With that, I hope you have enjoyed this channeling. And next up, I have got, Manuela. So Manuela's question is there anyone meant for me to meet in person for the rest of this year to build a friendship with, such as my soulmate or somebody new? Manuela, I do feel a couple of connections that will come in. So a lot of friendships. So you may feel like you're not really socializing much, but I feel like this will happen when you join like a yoga class or something, or like a hiking club or something, where you're going to meet very like-minded spiritual people, and through that you will meet a lot of connections, and this will continue to build on in a very soulful way. So I do feel one or two people will enter your life who you totally feel at home with. So these are what I'll call divine friendships. These friends you share a beautiful history with, from your same star seed. Family may come in as well, connections you have yet to meet. So yes, I do see 2025 as a year where, and this will also bring about new business ideas, and you might be doing something that is totally community based, community related, and I just feel that there will be a harmony that comes with these friends, and it's really really going to open up your fields to have safer connections on earth through people as well. So definitely your guides want you to know that there are going to be a couple of significant friendships that you will meet later in the year, November, December specifically. And then 2026 is going to be a year of new projects, a new purpose will come through, in terms of life, career, goals, everything. So that's what I'm seeing for you through the Akashic records. And with that, I hope you have enjoyed the channeling. And I've got Tracy. Tracy says, "Hi Varsh, I'm giving up. Totally surrendering. He's still breadcrumbing me. Can't that you can't allow this anymore. What's his energy at the moment?" So right now, both your nervous systems are affected, and that's why you're feeling all of that sacred fear and sacred frustration rising. So all you have to do is take a step back. Don't even try to force surrender. Take a step back and um, try to breathe for a while and practice conscious detachment. That is, trying to, for a while, temporarily, put a space in between the both of you, energetically set the intent. Hey, my energies and his energies, even though we share the same combined energy field, I would like to take a pause for a while, and then it would start to regulate again, and the noise will also clear out a little. So then you will shift from 3D to the soul, and you will realize that he isn't really breadcrumbing in a 3, of course in a 3D way. What he's doing, what you're saying, is valid, but in a 5D way, he's pushing you to look within. It's kind of like helping you to reset your energies, and you are also helping him to reset his energies as well. So his energies at the moment is in turmoil because he can feel that you're feeling a lot of sacred anger, frustration. So he feels like he's in a panic mode, doesn't know what to do, and he wants you to be happy. So he's trying to navigate around now around that. So it's quite intense. So I would say that if you start on the breather, and if you like tell yourself consciously, hey, I'm going to take a break a little bit until I will feel stabilized, so when you re-enter again, you will feel much more peace and harmony. So that's what I will suggest for you. I hope that helps. And finally, I have got Shay. Would like to know what you pick up for Frank and yourself. All right, so what's going on with Frank and you? So what I'm picking up, and Frank and you are going through a deep reset right now. A lot, he's being clouded a lot. His thoughts seem to be lingering between wisdom and insecurity. A part of him feels unworthy of your love, and a big part of him feels like he wants to reach out and make amends, but at the same time he feels that he doesn't want to come in and disrupt your feel. But there's a lot of potential coming in because Saturn has been a tough teacher on your DM, really showing him what he has been doing to you. So in a way, like all of that is like bringing out that deep centered emotions to light. So you might be feeling it much more in the third energy field, deeper, more profoundly. So in that regard, you may be noticing like deja vu synchronicities, because it's his way of like reaching out to you in the ether. So his messages towards you are that he wants you to know that he's very embarrassed by his behavior of the past, and he knows that his behavior is not fair, but he thanks you for always believing in him and recognizing this connection, even though consciously he may not be able to fully own it, but he is getting there. And he says that he just loves you and appreciates all the love you have for him. So your combined energy feels there's a lot of blue and green, heart-centered communication is going to come in. So with that, I hope you have enjoyed this channeling, Shay. And guys, all right, I wanted to keep this discourse under 2 hours, so I'm glad I have. So with that, guys, I'll highly recommend the healings I've introduced, especially the third energy healings to clear the field, and also the chakra balancer and the heart recalibration healing. And of course, if you want something intense, the soul realignment, it's a 4 to 6 weeks process, and I'll catch up with you 2 to 3 times during the entire process as well to update you what has been cleared. So awesome, guys. I really hope you have enjoyed this discourse, and if you have any questions, write them in the comments. And I would say that a lot is coming in. I'm going to introduce more healings, Saturn retrograde ones, Neptune retrograde. There's a healing out there already, but if you guys need a sacred anger transmutation, you can book a session with me. And the Phoenix Gate can be also very helpful with purging, and the chakra mirror activation can really help, and the divine masculine fragment healing, and etheric space clearing. So I've recommended all of them here. Do check them out. So with that, I will see you all again next week. I'm just going to see one last time if there are any more questions, and then we're going to call it a wrap. And okay. Oh, you're welcome, Manuela. Welcome, Jordan. All right, then. Take care. See you all next week. Blessings to you all, and all good things always. All right, take care. Bye bye. And if you haven't subscribed, please do if you'd like more of these teachings. All right, take care. Bye bye.